Okay, so this time around we're going to go ahead and take a look at a deck that I like to say is somewhere between like modern speed and pioneer speed. It's a really interesting build and probably one of the more creative that I've made in more recent years. I did kind of shell it out from a similar concept that's more Boros colors, but I didn't build the Boros deck honestly because I love Tezz's Touch. Realistically, I love Insol Artifact, but I've looked and it is not in the database. You can check collected, not collected. This is obviously set for what's the word I'm looking for? Historic. So yeah, no Insol Artifact means that we're going to use Tezz's Touch. But on the plus side, Tezz's Touch is still pretty good. However, the rest of the deck is what honestly makes this a whole lot better. So let's go ahead and run through this real quick and play a few games. This is probably one of the cooler decks I have made in a very long time. So first off, in the 0-drop spot, we have Ornithopter, which is... it's a card that doesn't cost any mana. You just drop it whenever you want to. But it is a 0/2 with flying. So inherently, it doesn't look like it does anything until you do stuff to it. Next, we have probably the only control element card we have in this deck, which is Built to Last. It gives target creature +2/+2 until end of turn. And if it's an artifact creature, which it will be, it gains indestructible until the end of turn. So basically, this gets around kill spells. I mean... You could use the pump in order to get in for the final, but generally speaking, you don't need to. The entire purpose of this is to get around kill spells. It doesn't help us when it comes to exile, and I did briefly consider using Ephemerate, but given how reliant we are on enchantments, and you'll see what I mean as we go through this, that didn't seem like a very good idea. Next, we have 4 copies of Aether Spellbomb. I like this card for a couple of different reasons. First off, it can be animated by Tezz's Touch, although realistically all artifacts can be. But yeah, I mean it's the only one that's not also a creature. But secondarily, you can use it either as a draw spell, or you can use it to bounce something to your opponent's hand, and there's no limit on that. So while we could go down the route of using kill spells, something like Fatal Push or Heartless Act, or any kill spell, instead I decided to opt into the bounce category, but also because, as you'll see with All That Glitters, it's very important to continuously have artifacts out on the board. So yeah, it's versatile, it fits in with our game plan, and it's subjectively better than a kill spell. I don't know. That's just my take on it. Next, 4 copies of Curious Obsession. Enchanting creature gets +1/+1, and it says whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you can draw a card at the beginning of your end step. If you didn't attack with a creature this turn, sacrifice Curious Obsession. So this is really cool because a lot of the cards that we have in here are 1-drops, and your Ornithopter is even a 0-drop, which means if you have this in hand, turn 2, you can swing and draw a card. The downside is because Curious Obsession itself gets sacrificed if the attack doesn't happen, naturally it'll get sacked if you try to play it in at a time when you cannot attack. But because every single creature that we have in here has evasion, or in the terms of Stonecoil Serpent has trample, it's not going to be a huge issue. Next, we have Gingerbrute. It is a 1/1 for 1 with haste, and you can make it to where it is unblockable unless an opponent is blocking with a creature that also has haste. So like I said, this is a form of evasion. It's kind of a goofy way to go about it, but it works. Also, the idea of further animating a previously animated gingerbread cookie is kind of hilarious. Next, we have 2 copies of Hope of Girapur. I haven't actually used the effect on it, but I can see the general appeal for it. But on its own, it's a 1/1 for 1 with flying. You can sacrifice it, and until the next turn, a target player who was dealt combat damage by it can't cast non-creature spells. So it's a decent way to get around evasion, or not evasion, sorry, control magic, as well as shut down things like Coco and Burn and whatnot. And that's something we want to do, and the fact that we can do it so fast is just a huge bonus. The only downside is if we end up kind of investing into this card and then sacrificing it, we just lose all of that investment. But that may not be an issue depending on where we are in the game. Next, we have the enchantment All That Glitters. It gives +1/+1 to the enchanted creature for each artifact and enchantment you control. You might note, every single thing in here is either an enchantment or an artifact with the exception of Shram's Expertise, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Next, we have only 3 copies of it, and that's just because of the converted mana cost. With 3 copies of Tempered Steel and an artifact creatures you control, all of them get +2/+2. Oh, and so, yeah, all of our creatures are artifacts, and Aether Spellbomb can become an artifact creature. So, yeah, huge bonus. I mean, you drop down a couple of Ornithopters, they don't look impressive on their own, but you put down a Tempered Steel on turn 3, suddenly you've got 2 4s in the air, and yeah. Next we have Tezz Touch. What this does is it enchants an artifact and gives it the base power and toughness of 5/5. And then when that artifact dies or is put into the graveyard, you can return it to your owner's hand. So this is what I was talking about. You can use this to animate Aether Spellbomb. But generally speaking, what we do is we give it to Gingerbread, we give it to Ornithopter, we give it to, well, you can't actually give it to Stonecloser, but you give it to Hope of Girapur, and you end up with a 5/5 that's difficult to block, and typically speaking there are other ways in which it's pumped, like with Tempered Steel or All That Glitters. Next, interestingly, we only have 1 copy of this, and there's an explanation for that, but this is Shram's Expertise. You create 3 1/1 color servo tokens, and then you get to free cast anything with a mana value 3 or less from your hand without paying the mana cost. Things like Tezz Touch, Tempered Steel. And so it actually combos really well. If you play this and you have Tezz Touch or Tempered Steel on the battlefield, you're getting 3 1/1 servos, right? And then you can, if you have Tezz Touch, you can animate one of them to turn into a 5/5, or if you have Tempered Steel, now you have 3 3/3s for 4 mana. That's pretty bonkers. That is what we refer to in the business as value. It's just really good. Even getting All That Glitters off of it, you know, we're not getting as much of a discount from values, from the CMC difference is huge, because that is a heck of an effect in a deck like this. So yeah, pretty solid card to have in there. I have considered putting in 2. I'm just not entirely sure what would be cut. And finally, we have Stonecoil Serpent, because why wouldn't you use this? So it has Reach, Trample, and Protection from Multicolored, and you pay X and get that much +1/+1 counters on it. Now, the cool thing is if you have Stonecoil Serpent out and then you put All That Glitters on it, it just pumps up, and then that Trample becomes even more relevant. The only problem is because of the way that Protection is worded, you can't put Tezz Touch on it, which is another reason why I really, really wish the Insult Artifact would just get printed already. And so yeah, let's go ahead and move down to the mana base. Now you will notice that there is literally only 1 card that uses black in this entire deck. And for that reason, we kind of don't have as much support for black. You'll notice that Godless Shrine and Watery Grave are both 3-ofs. There's only 1 Isolated Chapel and only 1 Drowned Catacomb and only 1 Swamp. But we do have a Castle Lochwain, which is honestly more of a sink than anything else, because in desperate situations, this is what we use to draw cards, as it is in every other deck that I use it in. But I still only have 1, because I generally do have card draw. I mean, I have Aether Spellbound, I have Curious Obsession, I have ways to draw cards. I did go ahead and put in a Castle Vantress, because in the situation in which my hand is almost empty and I need to make sure I get what I need, getting that Scry is pretty good. Other than that though, it's Shocks, it's Pathways, it's a couple of checks, it's 1 Fabled Passage, and 1 of each basic. So yeah, it's kind of a weird mana base, at least for how I traditionally build them, but it's functional. So yeah, with that said, let's go ahead and play a game. This is honestly one of my more favored decks as of late. I only made it a couple days ago, and there have been some tweaks to it, but honestly, it's pretty close to perfect. Like, this is almost as good as Tron the Strong. as far as reliability and consistency for wins. Okay, so we have tempered steel, but we do not have a second white source. That's a minor problem, but it's one that we can deal with. I'm still going to keep this hand because as soon as we get a white source, we're looking at 1, 2 Thopters. And I'm going to wait off and play the Stonecoil Serpent on turn 2. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and see how this goes. Alright, so Watery Grave enters tapped, Thopter, Thopter, pass. Alright, time to see what our opponent is playing. Alright, we have a Tezz Touch. Okay, I'm down with this. We're gonna go ahead and put down the Hennigate's Pathway, I guess, whatever. And we will drop the Stonecoil Serpent. So no attacks because there's no point in doing that, and then we just go to end turn. Next turn I'll go ahead and animate, or Tezz Touch one of the Ornithopters, and we're going to have a 5/5 flyer on turn 3, which is subjectively better than that. Okay, Drown Catacomb, Tezz Touch, we're going to target this Ornithopter right here. Put down another Ornithopter, because at this point we can use one Ornithopter, or possibly even 2, just as blocking fodder. Alright, another Gilded Goose, choose another food. And yeah, it looks like they can use them as fodder at this point in time. So you're going to go ahead and put down all that glitters on Stonecoil Serpent. Now watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 permanents. It's now an 8/8. How hilarious is that? No matter what he blocks with, not only is it going to die, but he's going to lose a ton of life on top of that. Well, not a ton of life. Yeah. I love this deck. Alright, Wicked Wolf. Fight something. What are you going to fight, buddy? Ah, I see. He's fighting the Ornithopter. But that honestly doesn't matter. The Stonecoil Serpent itself can take this thing out. And if I get a white source on top of that, yeah, he quit. I'm really curious to see if I would have gotten a white source on top of that, because that would have been hilarious. I would have had, like, they wouldn't have been able to stop me. There was just no end to the onslaught that was coming after that. Cool. Alright, what is this challenge? 30 creatures, or attack with 30 creatures. I can do that later. Alright, back to another game. We got to the intro and the first game in 13 minutes. That's hilarious. It's such a functionally aggressive deck for an Esper deck. I love it. Okay, tons of land. Gingerbrute and Stonecoil Serpent. I don't like that we don't have support, but against my better judgment, I think I'll keep it. Alright, so Godless Shrine, Shock, Gingerbrute, attack. End turn. I didn't want to miss out on an opportunity for free damage, so that's why I decided to take the Shock. Ooh, Arboreal Grazer. So, this could be a number of different decks, and none of them are going to be fun to play against. Okay, so we have another All That Glitters. We're going to go ahead and hit it with the Bright Time Pathway and do a 2-counter Stonecoil Serpent. On the following turn, we can go ahead and play the other Gingerbrute and the All That Glitters onto the Stonecoil Serpent, which will make it trample through for, let's see, it'll be a 6/6 at that point in time. Alright, Llanowar Elves. This deck is focusing on ramp, although to what end, I'm not entirely sure. Clearwater Pathway comes in. We're going to go ahead and put it down for blue, and then put down the Gingerbrute. And All That Glitters. The downside, of course, here is that we are now out of... actually, you know what? We can attack with all. Because even if they block the Gingerbrute with Boreal Glazer, we go. That's still another one that would have to get through, otherwise they would lose their land of more elves and probably defeat the purpose of what they were doing at the time. Alright, Moss Viper with Death Touch. That's a problem because it can kill the Stone Coil Serpent, so... Okay, we got another Stone Coil Serpent. We're gonna go ahead and put this down. And I'm not gonna attack yet. Not this turn. I will attack with the 1/1s. Get in some peck damage. But I'd rather wait to risk going against that Moss Viper until after I'm sure I can get a kill. Alright, that's not good. We really need something other than land. I only have 22 in this deck. I'm not entirely sure why this is doing it to me, or why this is doing this to me. So we're gonna dud our turn, which doesn't feel good, but whatever. On the plus side, you can tell that they are really, really far behind as far as mana goes, because they would probably be like having a much bigger and much more damaging board at this point. Okay, Castle Vantress is at least helpful. At this point, I think damage control needs to be done, and so even if they block with the Moss Viper, well, I don't want to make that kind of assumption. I think we're better off dudding a turn and seeing what happens afterwards. Although, I am pretty tempted to attack with this Stone Coil Serpent. I might attack with this one, because there would have to be some loss. Yeah. There would have to be some loss. Nah, I want to wait. We can scry 2 off of this Castle Vantress and get around any other... Okay, yeah. We really need to scry now. These aren't helpful in the slightest. Ornithopter, maybe, but I'm only getting 1 draw, and Ornithopter is not my end this game draw, so... Yikes. Alright, that's a problem. We might... Yeah, we're screwed. We don't have a chance. Alright, well, we're gonna go out swinging. Yeah, I probably should have just played right into the Moss Viper. I would have had a better chance, I think. I'll have to review it later. I'm just gonna scry off of Curiosity. One more turn now, I would have had the Aether Spellbomb and or Curious Obsession, so cool. Alright, we will concede here. It's really unfortunate. This is an MVP deck, but yeah, I probably should have mulled that opening hand. It's always good to have a support to go through creatures in this particular deck, and I just didn't have it in that first hand. But anyone who knows me knows I hate mulling for any reason, especially to 5. I think I mulled to 4 or 3 like once in my life. It was a terrible game, but it was a draft. Or a pre-release, one of the two. I can't read that person's name. Not entirely sure what language. Okay, this is interesting. Well, Tempered Steel would be amazing in part or right about now, so we'll keep it just because these can all draw us cards, and we'll just see what happens. Alright, our opponent has mulled a few times. And they quit. Well, I guess we're not going to see what happens with a 3 Aether Spellbomb hand. Not the most glamorous of victories, but hey, you know, some people have rough days. try this again, shall we? Okay, so we have Hollow Fountain and a Castle Lockwing, 2 copies of Tempered Steel, Curious Obsession, and an Ornithopter. So we're going to keep this just on the basis of I can have a Flying Ornithopter triggering Curious Obsession next turn. Now, the real question is, do I want to take 2 points of damage to put down the Aether Spell Bomb? And I'm going to say, yes I do. So, Ornithopter, 2 points of damage, Spell Bomb, pass. Alright, well that thing has flying. That, unfortunately, kind of dampers my plan. Oh wait, no, I can send it back to their hand. Oh, but then I can't cast Curious Obsession. Yeah. I can kill it though. Oh, okay. Never mind, they're gonna let me draw. Oh, sweet, Isolated Chapel, that's helpful. Yeah, that means I can play Tempered Steel next turn. Alright, Chapel, Steel. You gonna counter it? Nope. Alright. Get the card draw. All of that glitter's sweet. Alright, this is gonna be a pretty awesome game. They're doing mono blue something. Typically this is like an aggro type deck, but they haven't done anything, so I can't get a beat on them. I don't want to risk any type of bomb, so I'm not going to play all that glitters. So it's either I play Tempered Steel or Stonecoil Serpent in order to bait them out. I think Tempered Steel is what I want to do. Alright, they let it hit. So 2 life for the Godless Shrine so I can put insurance on the Ornithopter. I have built to last in hand. Go for 5 points of damage. Stern Dismissal. Okay. Yeah, that sucks. End turn. Oh, I could have put the Ornithopter back down. Whoops. Anyway, it sucks to lose Curious Obsession, but we did get quite a bit off of it. Ooh, they tapped out. I can play the Stonecoil Serpent. Alright, I can play it for 5 too. Man, that feels good. Oh, look at that board presence. Isn't that ridiculous? They could block me with that. Murmuring Mystic, and it wouldn't matter. Okay, we're gonna go Ginger Brew. Let's see how they respond. Essence Capture. Okay, I'm actually quite happy to see that. Because I can put all that glitters on there. Oh, I should have put it on the Stonecoil Serpent, my bad. Alright, now we are going to just attack. Yeah, I should have factored in the fact that they do have creatures with flying. Normally that would be a good move because people don't reliably have a ton of flying, but yeah, in this situation it was not a good move. Okay. Giving his creatures hexproof at the end of my turn doesn't make any sense. But, you know, whatever. Maybe he was just doing it for this dude? He seems to be thinking. He's got 6 mana available. Myth of Ionia, huh? Alright, what's this do? Okay, he's copying that, and it's already got its trigger, so even if it's, it really doesn't matter, yeah. Alright, Aether Spellbomb. So I think I can win just by popping this. Oh, I would have needed to pop 2 blues. Let's just put the token Mystic back in their hand. That sucks. Okay. Well, it's still close. Serpent's still going to be devastating, and they don't have the capacity to stop it. Yeah, they're not going to be able to kill it. So let's see. But they do want to prevent the trample. I see where they're going with this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put the original Murmuring Mystic as opposed to the other one. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, they can do 9 points of damage. Alright, so we're going to put the OG Murmuring Mystic as well as... Let's see, I'm doing 9 points of damage with this hit, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I'd rather take out as many birds as possible, actually, so he can keep the zombie army for all I care. We want to take out birds. So, yeah, that's how we're doing this. And then I'm going to play Built to Last on the Stormcoil Serpent, bypassing using the game thing in the first place, as well as taking out the vast majority of what he has. That was pretty hilarious. So yeah. Oh, the desperation moves. That's a 5/5 for 1 mana, I just want to point out, and I can make it unblockable. Honestly, not the worst thing to happen. Yeah, because I can just put it back down. So we're gonna make him unblockable, and then we're literally just gonna recast this with the same 5 that it originally cost us. And unless he can board wipe, we pretty much have it at this point. Cool. We shall put down the Curious Obsession, and we're gonna put it on Ginger Brew. Yeah, like, okay. Oh, desperation. Desperation. Despacito. Let's see what he's got. Does he die? He dies. Alright, cool. So yeah, definitely one of the more entertaining decks I have ever built, and we're gonna finish this right at the half-hour mark. So with that said, I finally figured out exactly how I'm going to go about streaming. I'm going to be streaming directly to YouTube, which means the video should be uploaded, and at that point in time, I'm literally just going to pick out decks as I go. I'll take requests if people actually watch the streams and request decks. But of course, I always make videos to demonstrate individual decks, so that way you can get an idea of what's going on. So most likely I will not play decks that I haven't done videos on to show off exactly how they work. With that said though, thanks for watching and have a great rest of the day.